But here's some breaking news with stimulus. The House prepares to pass the $1.9 trillion stimulus relief package today on Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. And Biden is expected to sign the bill later this week. This is pretty big news. We've been seeing some back and forth for a while now on stimulus. So the House, they passed the stimulus bill just a couple weeks ago with $1,400 stimulus checks that would go to people who made $80,000 a year or less. It also included $400 per week in boosted unemployment benefits. That passed. It got sent to the Senate. However, the Senate modified it. They didn't pass that exact way. So the bill that they passed includes $1,400 stimulus checks that go to people who make $75,000 a year or less as an individual, and if you make $150,000 a year or less as a married couple, you also receive the full amount. So what passed in the Senate was just a modified version. In addition to that, it also moved it from $400 a week in boosted unemployment benefits to $300 a week in boosted unemployment benefits. This bill that passed the Senate includes the boosted unemployment benefits that last through September 6th of this year. So a couple more months. It's really for most of this year, more than 6 months of boosted unemployment benefits, which would be extremely helpful. And now this bill is expected to be voted on in the House later today. Nancy Pelosi came out and she said that the House now hopes to have a bipartisan vote on this life-saving legislation and urges Republicans to join us in recognition of the devastating reality of this vicious virus and economic crisis for the need for decisive action. She goes on to explain how, despite the fact that we believe any weakening of the House provisions were bad policy and bad politics, the reality is that the final amendments were relatively minor concessions. And that's really true. The only big differences that apply to stimulus and boosted unemployment benefits between what the House originally passed and what now they're going to vote on, hopefully later today, is going to be that it modifies who receives the full amount. So what they're voting on is to send out the full $1,400 stimulus checks to those who make $75,000 a year or less, and also $300 per week in boosted unemployment benefits. It's only a minor concession versus what they pass, and it is very likely that this will pass. You can't guarantee anything, but it looks very, very likely that this will pass the House later today or whenever it is introduced to the House. If it's not introduced later today, it will be introduced tomorrow on Wednesday. So that will be good news either way. And according to Joe Biden, now that the Senate has already passed it, once the House passes it, it'll be sent off to Joe Biden hopefully later this week. And according to Joe Biden, he said that Americans can expect to receive their stimulus check by the end of this month. They'll be starting to send out if it is passed this week. That's what many people are predicting if it is passed. That would be great news. In addition to this, let's go over some specific details that have been confirmed about the stimulus checks. So who's going to be eligible, which I've said, full $1,400 for those who make up to $75,000 as an individual, $112,500 for heads of household, and $150,000 for married couples. Those are the people who would receive the full amount. And in addition to that, when the $1,400 stimulus checks would be sent out, according to experts, they say that those who will be first in line to get the money will be those who have the direct deposit bank account information already on file with the IRS. And they said those people could receive their money within 2 weeks. 2 weeks of the legislation getting passed. That would be absolutely huge news to get the stimulus checks within the next 2 weeks. In addition to that, they said other mail, debit card, and paper check payments would likely arrive later, potentially in April or May. So those of you who filled out put in your bank account information on the IRS portal for the other stimulus checks, you will be receiving it within the next 2 weeks as long as it is passed, which is looking very, very likely. And finally, many people are still waiting on the $600 stimulus checks that were authorized back in December, the second stimulus checks. And in some cases, a few people haven't even received their $1,200 stimulus checks that were sent out basically a year ago now. And the good news is that money is still available in the form of a tax credit. But in order to receive that money, if you have not received it, is you have to file a tax return in order to claim it. And that goes even if you don't typically file one, because you have little to no income and you don't need to file tax returns. So if you haven't received that, the only way you will be receiving that $1,200 from last year, the first stimulus check, or the $600 from the second stimulus check, would be if you filed your tax returns and you get that tax credit. But either way, good news here. Voting on the House later today, hopefully, if not today, tomorrow. Then we're expecting to see Joe Biden pass this bill. We know if it is passed by the House, he will pass it. So that would be great news. Once it's passed, it would only take about 2 weeks for those of you with direct deposit, and those of you without direct deposit with debit cards or in the form of a paper check, you would receive it probably April or May of this year. So that is very, very soon. Things are looking very good for stimulus. Let me know what you guys think about the stimulus checks. If you want me to do some more stimulus updates, include them in these long episodes in our podcast. And that is what is going on with stimulus.